Bobbio's most famous landmark is the Ponte Vecchio, also sometimes called Ponte Gobbo, or Hunchbacked Bridge, a name ascribed to it due to the bridge's uneven span and irregular shape. It dates from Roman times, though most of what one sees today stems from the High Middle Ages, roughly the 7th century on. There's not much evidence visible today of what the bridge actually connected across the Trebbia River from the town of Bobbio, but at the time the main road to Genova was on the other side of the bridge from where it is now. The Trebbia isn't always as placid as it is here. Various floods have caused damage to the bridge, and several of the arches have collapsed over the centuries, most recently in 1971, with the bridge eventually being rebuilt each time afterwards. Another name for the bridge is Ponte del Diavolo, or Devil's Bridge. Several legends connected to the origins of this name exist, but they're all too long to go into here. One explanation for the name I find interesting is that in the Middle Ages, people thought that what God had separated, such as a valley separated by a river, shouldn't be joined together. So the building of any bridge, which was a major engineering feat at the time, was already considered a diabolical act per se. My attention was caught by this cat on a leash, which was much more spooked by the grass than by any residual devilry on the bridge. While the Duomo is the most prominent church of Bobbio, thanks to its campanile, and despite the fact that it was completed almost 1,000 years ago in 1075, it's nowhere near as old as the Abbey of San Colombano. That was founded by the Irish monk and missionary Saint Columbanus in 614, a year before his death in Bobbio, and it was one of the most important spiritual and cultural centers in northern Italy for several centuries thereafter. Most of what is visible today, from the arcades of the former monastery to the basilica, dates from the 15th century, built on top of the edifices which existed well before the year 1000. Inside the totally empty basilica, it was almost eerily quiet. I haven't reduced the background sound here at all. The artwork in the naves is the work of Bernardino Lanzani and an assistant from the early 16th century. I considered myself very lucky to be able to enjoy the peacefulness inside the basilica in undisturbed tranquility. At the highest part of the old town is the Castello Malaspina. What we see today is mostly from the early 1300s. It had already closed for visits at 3 p.m., so I decided to walk down to Piazza San Francesco and have a drink while waiting for my bus back to Piacenza. I don't have to tell you that I was already starting to think about my dinner in Milan, a few hours down the road.